be aware you'll be recorded. So our ship is busy leaving the harbor. Hopefully everybody's on board. It's a fancy ship, so it does have a helipad. If we happen to miss anyone, they'll definitely be able to still join us. And as we are departing out of the harbor, I would like you to please take a beverage of your choice. So maybe it's morning and you'd like an orange juice. Otherwise, it might be prudent to have a cup of coffee, or you could have a glass of wine. It is, after all, a wonder in wine. So please make sure you grab your beverage of choice. Now, what is a wonder in wine about? What is this yacht club about? So the yacht club is a virtual community of people that are very important to us at Patunk. So you are officially a VIP if you didn't know. And we are going to discuss things in these Wonder in Wine Yacht Club events. It's an opportunity to network, to share and learn, and to get to know about some things that we have got going on in the background. Who are we going to be engaging with today? Well, today we've got online with us Andrew Lenti, is CEO at Top Tactical Intelligence. Now, Andrew has developed a software as a service platform called Presto, which is about continuous improvement and very applicable in a discussion like we are having today, where we are talking about strategy. And Andrew's software system is a system that we endorse. We think it's a really good way of getting your strategy into a software system, digitize your strategy. Then we have Dr. Michelle Boyson, our CEO, as one of our panelists. There's myself. I'm the COO of Patunk NXT. And we have the privilege of being moderated by MJ. She's our PMO director. And in the background, we've got Moira and Abby that are coordinating things happening behind the scenes. Just a bit about Patunk. We are a company that is at our core trying to create abundance, not just in your business, but in the world. But we do it by making your business work better. There's abundance in your business, then there's abundance in the people and the communities connected to your business. And what do we do? Well, we've got a few practices in our business. We've got a data practice, an automation practice, change management and project management, and we have process and strategy, blockchain, and compliance. So of course, today's webinar coming to you out of our process and strategy practice. And what are we talking about today? Maybe you've gotten a clue up to now. We are talking about how to define an executable strategy for 2023. And more importantly, bringing that strategy to your staff in a way that they'll understand it, be able to track what they do, and then through that, make sure it actually gets executed. That's often something we battle with. We have this wonderful strategy, but where the rubber hits the road, I've been using that analogy a lot lately. Where the rubber hits the road, things tend to fall apart. But we've got some thoughts that we're going to share with you on how to make sure strategy works. And please stay to the end. We will be giving those of you that are attending this webinar with us a special offer, or access to a special offer. Before we get started, I think we're going to do a poll, and then we'll hand over to MJ to discuss the poll with us. So you should see a poll on your screens imminently, if you don't already see it, and please answer the questions. Right, we got about 30% of you've responded.
Okay, Vincent, I don't see the results, so I think you must explain it, please.
Okay, so what we're looking at, what you're seeing on your screen, is why is strategy not a favorite topic? And
yeah, Vincent, I'm afraid I'm also not seeing the poll results.
Okay, great. We'll end the poll shortly, and then the hosts will be able to see it. So just going through the questions, why is strategy not a favorite topic? And the options is it's a favorite for me. We spend time on it, then get busy with other things. It is difficult to explain to our staff. And the last option is we fail to implement and track. And with just about everyone having responded, I am going to end the poll and share the results. And everyone should now be able to see, and I'm going to hand over to MJ.
Well, it's great to see that 21% of us say it's a favorite, and it's really great. And I sort of expected that 50%. It happens. You start. It's like your New Year's resolutions. You start with good intentions, and then life takes over. And indeed, it can be difficult to explain to staff, and hopefully we're going to see what we can do to remedy that. We failed to implement and track that as well. Thank you, Vincent. So
I think just before I completely abandon my post, I must just say, MJ, to the audience, please ask questions in the chat, and we will address the questions at the end. We've left 15 minutes to answer your questions. So as they come up, bomb them into the chat. We'll take a note of them and get back to it at the end. Okay, sorry, MJ, back to you.
Thanks, Vincent. So Michelle, can you tell us what exactly is strategy and why is it important?
Thanks, MJ, and hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Strategy, I'm wondering, are they talking about what are they planning? What are they planning an end result? Are they planning how to get to that end result? So I think strategy is a bit of a big word with lots of interpretations to it. But from our point of view, and when we work on strategies with people that we decide to sail the rough waters of today's business with, we look at strategy as, where is it that you want to get? What is the destination that you're aiming for? And in doing so, let's start first of all by what is the purpose of your business? Why are you in business? And given that purpose of that business, what would you like to see? Which you can, in our language, we refer to that as your vision. And in that trip or that voyage that you're taking, what are the things that you need to do to be able to get to that destination? Those are all part of planning your business, assigning certain goals, creating objectives that support those goals, and then finding ways to get there. And it is quite confusing sometimes, because then other words come in like mission and niches and so forth. And I found keep it as understandable as possible for everyone who's busy doing strategy, so that you are clear as this is why we're here, this is where we want to get to, and these are the things we have to do in order to get certain results out of this journey that we're taking. So MJ, for me, strategy is always such an interesting, it's like really unpacking and thinking of things that you don't always think about as a business person. And the most value actually comes from is if you and your team or the senior leadership team really just think creatively about things and not always be tied up by, gosh, we did this last year, this should we do? So it is a nice creative space to be in.
Thanks, Michelle. So I recently come across this author, and I think he's also a teacher, Jeroen de Vlander, and he said that a balanced scorecard helps turn parrots, people who just repeat what they've heard, into ambassadors, people who understand the what and why and can reason decisions with others. So Vincent, we are also using the balanced scorecard. Can you show us in practical ways, how do you create a strategy and where does this balance scorecard fit in? What is the Petanque way?
Right. Okay, sure. If you'll humor me, I think I need to share my screen to explain that. So, right, what we got here is, and I will zoom in for those of you that are pulling your screens closer and wanting to see what on earth is going on there. I will zoom in. This is part of a much larger document in terms of strategy. But if we're talking about what can you do this year to make your plans happen this year, then we don't need a 15-year strategy and all the paraphernalia that goes with it. So this is a zoomed in section of what we call a business destination map. So let's call this a condensed destination map. Okay, and here comes the zooming. So we basically start off with, okay, I'm not going to zoom in just yet. Let me quickly give you an overview. So we start off with these blue blocks over here, where we make sure you do have a purpose, a vision, and a goal. And then we go look at the fruits of the tree, and I'll explain what that is shortly, but they basically make that goal happen. So my goal is linked to a vision, the vision is linked to a purpose, and the fruits of the tree, hopefully you can see that that is a tree there, makes that goal happen. But to make the fruits of the tree practical and have things to do to make them happen, we need wheels of our bus. And if you can just use your imagination, you can see this is a bus with wheels, and that's the things that give traction to the fruits of the tree, that make it happen. So the fruits is, if I can achieve that, if I can pluck that fruit, then I will have achieved my goal. The wheels of the bus are what I need to do to make that fruit, to get the flower to bloom and the fruits to eventually come off the tree. And then below that, this big giant table is granular activities and results. And if I compare this now to other methodologies, the fruits of the tree are going to be a balanced scorecard, to answer MJ's question, and I'll go into a little bit of depth around that. And you may be familiar with OKRs. In terms of OKRs, the fruits of the tree are your conditions of success, and the wheels of the bus are your objectives, or the O of OKRs, and this table at the bottom is the KR, or the key results of OKRs. So let's now make this practical. So that's a mouthful. Let's make it practical. So we're pretending to be a toy manufacturer, and the purpose of this toy manufacturer is to bring joy to children. Their vision is to be the leading toy manufacturer in Europe. And for this year, in furtherance of that vision, they want to enter the French market. They want to enter France. So they're basically saying that we don't have a presence there. How can we be a leader in Europe if we don't have a presence in France? So very logical goal for the year. Your goal is going to make the vision maybe not happen this year, but it's a step towards your vision. So we then go look at the fruits of the tree. Now, the fruits of the tree, or the balanced scorecard perspective, is basically looking at this goal from 6 aspects. So we make sure we've got a holistic view of the goal. And from these 6 aspects, how do I know that I will have achieved my goal? So to enter the French market, let's start down here at the bottom left with governance and finance focus. This is, by the way, the expanded balanced scorecard. A lot of you may know the balanced scorecard as having 4 aspects to it, and that was expanded to have 6 aspects. And so we've got 6 aspects here. So for governance and finance, I need to comply to the local legislation, to French legislation, and I need to achieve my profit margin. It doesn't help we go into France and we run at a loss. So we want to achieve our profit margin. So that'll be a successful entry into the French market. And how am I going to measure that? I've got 2 KPIs. I'm going to have a compliance score, and I'm going to have a gross profit. And what good looks like is that my compliance score will be 80% and my gross profit will be 16%. Now, KPI always has a range. It's red if it's in a certain place and it's green if it's in a certain place. So this is describing when the KPI is going to be green, is if I achieve that. Then we go on to internal focus. I need to decrease the cost of production. The French market has tight margins. So for me to achieve my target profits, I'm going to need to digitize and automate in order to decrease the cost of production. And there are KPIs associated with that. Then in terms of environment and community, I've got to establish French CSI, and I need to have occupancy in a 5-star green rated building. And again, I'm going to have some KPIs that tell me I'm on track. Then in terms of innovation and growth, we are going to establish 3D prototyping and grow group revenue. And I'll know that my 3D prototyping is working if 100% of my prototypes are done on 3D printers. And I have added 5% to my group revenue, will tell me that that is achieved. Then for staff and team, we want to employ a diverse staff complement and make sure that that staff complement is engaged. So KPIs that are going to show that that's happened. And lastly, increase customer satisfaction. So there's the fruits of the tree. Now, I'm sure you'll all agree that if we do those things, by the end of the year, if we can make all those KPIs green, we will be able to say that we have achieved our goal. We have successfully entered the French market. And that's basically how we now go through any business. Moving on from that to our lovely bus. This is literally where the rubber hits the road. So what we're saying by that is it's where action happens. It's where we get traction. So to make those fruits of the tree or conditions of success or balanced scorecard view, to make that a reality, to make those KPIs which will measure it green, these are the things I need to do. So the wheels of the bus are the objectives of OKRs, the things I need to do. I need to digitize. So there will be a project around digitization. I need to create French product mix. So there's going to be a project around creating a French product mix. Integrate 3D into our research and development process. Set up a French office. Emulate a successful toy maker. Design a CSR program. Here I've left the blank wheel of the bus just to show that you don't have to populate all the wheels, but you may also have more wheels. Maybe you've got a 16-wheeler bus. But we generally aim to have about 8 wheels on our bus. And the 8th wheel is always compliance. We don't negotiate with our clients. It's compliant. We've got to make sure that we are compliant wherever we are operating. And that then takes us to the things that we need to do, the key results, in other words, in terms of OKRs. And each wheel of the bus has got its set of plans over time. So left to right, we're moving through time, and top to bottom is our different wheels of the bus. And within each of these blocks, what we see is an activity and a result. So as we all know, you can be active but have no outcome. So I can move paper from one pile to another, and that may be active, and I can do that the whole day. But what is the intended outcome of moving the paper from one pile to another? Is there an action in doing that? And perhaps the action is that I will pay an invoice. So I pick up the invoice, I pay it, and I put it down in the next file. Okay, pile. So now I have a result or an outcome for my activity. So we always make sure every activity has an expected outcome. And if you are now doing those activities with intended outcomes, what you're doing is making these wheels turn. That's going to get us up this hill. And if we get to the top of the hill, we will have achieved our goal. And all of these KPIs of the fruits of the tree are going to be green. And we therefore know from all perspectives, all aspects of our business, we have successfully achieved that goal. That was a lot to say, MJ. I hope.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's quite clear, but I'm sure there's already questions coming up in people's minds. But it's it almost sounds to me like it's on the one hand the hard part that the executive has to do. They have to do the thinking. What are the right things to do? What are we going to do, and what are we not going to do? But now that you've got your strategy, and I'm not talking about a very small organization, a medium to large organization, the actual implementation of the strategy, the people that need to make it happen, sit, they're widespread, they maybe globally, different locations, different departments, different teams need to work together on a wheel of a bus, and there's in this case 7 of them. Andrew, how do you actually now take that strategy and make it happen and make sure that everybody knows what each person has to do, and that the team leaders can track it, and that the executives and the CEO can have sight and can actually track the whole progression of the strategy, execution, and implementation? It's
MJ.
2 big questions for you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thanks, MJ. Hi, everybody. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Starting to enjoy this cruise ship. So yeah, this is a huge topic, and great introduction, by the way. The survey was pretty interesting because, yes, one of the biggest problems that I see, I'm surprised the number was so low in the survey, I think we'll go over it later, but is there's a strategy there, but everybody gets caught up in the other things, and the strategies disappears, becomes second class. So what that basically means is that sustaining strategy is difficult, and that's where you have the possibility to put in frameworks, to put in principles, and of course leverage automation. But going back to our famous lean principles, if it doesn't come from the top down, it's never going to work. So the way we like to work, my team, our logic is always working from the top down, but simultaneously working from the bottom up. A few of you on the line are users of our software. You know very well that most of the good data that starts actually solving problems is always coming from the bottom. It's come from the staff members, the team leaders, the process owners. And most of the time, when in the automation world, in our world, these type of things are happening at the bottom, and finally convincing the senior management to get involved. Now that shouldn't be that way, especially in strategy. It should be coming from the top. So I put together a few slides, as you may be expecting, and I'm sharing my screen now. So here's a simulation based on a true story. This is a mid-sized manufacturing toy company in Switzerland. The names have been changed, and the pictures have been changed, but the processes and the strategy, the KPIs that you're about to see are real. And you can see it's a mid-sized company, but they're in the 3rd generation. They've been in business since 1937. And if you take a look at what the bullet points on the screen, you can see they're starting to think digital. They're starting to think global. They're selling through B2B, B2C channels. So all of this means strategy is now super important, especially for the newer generations that are coming in. So here I'm introducing the company to you. There's Samuel, 3rd generation, Samuel DuPont, taking over for his father. You can see he's responsible for 6 direct reports. This is the value chain, the value stream of DuPont. You can see he's got these 6 manufacturing related areas, including the services part. And to take a look at the strategy that they want to deploy, well, they want to start becoming more digital. They want to make sure that manual activities are minimized, and they're leveraging digital technology to make sure they can make quick, confident decisions. So keeping that in mind, from a long-term goal, their breakthrough goal is to move from a crafts operation to industrial processing. They're not artisans anymore. They're starting to become a serious player in the European market, maybe even global. At that point in time, they're thinking, okay, so that's what we want to go in the long term. Annually, what do we want to do? Well, we want to create a new line of design-driven toys. And after the brains go to work, putting together a lot of different ideas, and maybe even with the help of some external consultants, they decide, well, one of the key initiatives, strategic initiatives, We're taking back to Vincent's metaphor earlier. One of the wheels of the bus is going to be investing in 3D prototype printing. So what we're going to do now, we have a big strategic initiative. We want to invest in 3D prototype printing. And what are we going to get back from that? Well, just off the cuff, you can say, well, we're going to be increasing employee. We expect to see customer satisfaction go up. We expect to see employment engagement improve. We expect to see an increase in market share, and we expect to see decreased cost in production. These are all things that are aligned with digitization and leveraging the new technology that Industry 4.0 has to offer. So our balanced scorecard for this company, all of our metrics are going to be grouped into these first 4 categories. Many of you are already familiar with this and probably already using this. You can see we're interested in financial KPIs. How do our shareholders view us? This is what they're going to be thinking about. Client KPIs. How do our clients view us? Thinking about customer satisfaction is the first one that comes off the top of my head. Internal process KPIs. This is where the process people have their say. Where do we need to excel to improve? If you're a problem solver, these are the type of KPIs where you're tracking critical to quality touch points that are going to allow you to make a process more streamlined and ultimately make a client more happy. And then finally, your learning and growth KPIs. And this is my favorite area of KPIs, but it's also to us the most expensive, and it's probably the most expensive to everybody, because especially if you're a small company like ours, you're always wondering, where should we be learning? Where should we be doing R&D? And there's a bit of a difference, and you'll see this in a second, where you're actually training and where you're actually spending time just exploring things that may be accepted or may not. Going back to our last webinar, we're talking about failing fast, failing forward. And we should be able to do a lot of those things with our new 3D printers. We should be able to do a bunch of prototypes and say what's good, say what's not good, and feel confident about it because we have tangible results in our hands. So taking our KPIs to the next level, now that we have them in those 4 balanced scorecard lenses, now you want to go to this next level. You want to know, well, what are the key KPI categories in this company? We have cost KPIs, training KPIs, productivity, quality, risk and safety, research and development KPIs, and health and morale KPIs. And these 7 categories that we've decided to use, you can use 5 sometimes. Some people might use a bit more. But this is where you really start to understand who's going to be getting involved. Obviously, when you start talking about cost, you're going to have finance people. When you start talking about R&D, you're going to be having the engineers raise their eyebrows. So this is where, before you even start putting numbers to people and putting targets, this is the type of meaningful discussions you want to have at the senior level with the key process experts, key problem solvers, to say, what are the things we're going to be interested in that are going to help us feel comfortable with what we're doing? So taking a quick minute to discuss lead and lag KPIs is very important when you start talking about the cadence of management reporting. What are you looking at and when? And this is something, in my opinion, biggest mistake companies are making. They're not taking the time to understand the difference between the two in scheduling them and reviewing them in different categories. So lead KPIs are the actual measurements of things you do that give you outcomes. Lag KPIs are what most happens in the past. You look at them and say, are we happy or are we not happy? Make some tangible examples. Example number 1, a lead KPI, how many marketing campaigns you launch on social media. The more marketing campaigns you launch, your lag KPI telling you the more social media followers you probably have. Number 2, how many safety audits you perform. The more safety audits you perform, lead KPI, the less accidents you're expected to have, lag KPI. And then the last one, the number of sales-related training classes your sales team takes. The more classes they take, in theory, the more sales they should be making. So you can see most of these have a positive correlation. Sometimes they have negative, like the second one. This is very important to start understanding each layer of management and how they should be approaching their daily business. So if you start thinking about the amount of time each layer of management dedicates on a daily basis to performance, it starts making more sense. Well, starting at the top of this pyramid, you see here, you see, okay, well, team leaders, when you've worked in business operations, when you've worked on a day as a process owner, you're doing a checklist every day. At the end of the day, a lot of times you tick boxes, and a lot of times it's somebody else that make sure that the boxes you ticked were ticked correctly. And that's a lot of that activity is lead KPIs. How many widgets did you make? How far did you take the company forward that day? And that's all based on your skill sets, your ability to collaborate, the effectiveness of the tools you're using. So that's where you start. That's where you really see the bloodline of your company. As you start going up the hierarchical structure of the company, middle management is starting to look more at some of the lag KPIs. They're saying, yeah, our workers are working, they're working hard, but are the lag KPIs in line with what we like? And as you start going to senior management, they're not really looking at lead KPIs anymore. They're just looking at the numbers, the bottom line, that famous dollar sign that the senior management and the shareholders are interested in. And that's why we call this the quarterly shot clock, because the board of directors is probably meeting every 3 months, and they just want to see that their sales are going good, and that there's no accidents, and that there's no tragedies, there's no reputational problems in the press. That's the reality of how things work. But behind the scenes, before they can see those numbers, you got a lot of lead KPIs that need to be managed correctly. And if you do manage them correctly, you should be able to keep the board of directors at bay in that quarterly meeting and allow you to manage the company and run the company and experiment in the way you want. Otherwise, if your lag KPIs are no good, you're going to be getting pressure stopping you from going where you really want to go as a process owner. So,
Andrew, sorry, I just want to jump in there and say, I think that a lot of us underestimate KPIs. We think KPI is a key indicator of whether this position is doing its job or not. But if you take it back to the balanced scorecard view, which yours had 4 aspects to it, and ours has 6 aspects. It's just 2 versions of the balanced scorecard that exist. I think there was a revision, and I don't remember whether it went up to 6 or down to 4. But anyways. The KPIs isn't just a matter of saying, well, for this position, this is how I know the position is doing well. You've got to link it back, as your slide deck shows, back to the balanced scorecard, or in our case, the fruits of the tree. And if it links back to that, then it also needs to link through to that vision. So, in terms of this toy manufacturer, a KPI of being able to make 10 phone calls a day to suppliers of paper might not be a very good KPI. So as a procurement officer, that might be good generally as a KPI, but specifically, how does that lead to incorporating 3D printing? And when you then view KPI through all those layers, you may have a different set of KPIs than if you start with the KPI and then try and match it up back to the vision.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, the techniques are similar, because, as I said, this was our starting point, but then we arrive here, and this is where we're hitting your balanced scorecard. So at the end of the day, it's 2 different approaches, but the result is going to be the same thing. And I'll show you how this ends up.
Yeah, I think I'm observing that KPIs are not simple. People mustn't underestimate, and they've got to make sure it links back to that vision, that purpose, and then your year goal. Don't just willy-nilly go create a KPI.
And MJ can vouch for me on this one, but we always say, whenever we're bringing on board a new client, that we say, whatever your list of KPIs is right now, please just make sure these 7 things you see on the screen is agreed at the top level. Because if you're 1 year down the road, you go to one team and they start using a category that was never even thought of before, it just puts a wrench into the wheels. So anyway, taking that forward, so the main point I wanted to say here is that if you see the cadence, you can see on a daily basis, you want team leaders looking at especially their lead KPIs. Middle management at least twice a week should be reviewing KPIs, senior management at least once a month, and then the board of directors on a quarterly basis. And here's where, going back to that famous top-down support that you need, here's where you tell the C-suite, you say, look, no matter, if you want this to be successful, you have to cut out time for people to not only look at these reports on these cadences you see here, if this is what they agree to, but they also have to be in a position to take action. Now, I'll be happy to discuss that in another webinar on how to take action on underperforming KPIs. But biggest problem I've seen with our clients, or I've in some ex-clients that have wanted to do stuff like this, and then they realize they bit off more than they can chew, is that even when they get everybody reporting their KPIs, they don't have management actually making any decisions. So you still have people at the bottom, why am I doing all this reporting? It's not doing anything. So that's, to me, is one of the biggest risks, is when management bites off more than they can chew. They say, let's do all this KPI reporting, but then they find out that they're not in a position to take this actions the way they thought. But once again, that's for another discussion. So let's go back to DuPont Toys. Let's talk about their lag KPIs. So you can see in the top right, I've color-coded our balanced scorecard. So from a finance point of view, we have we're expecting, these are lag KPIs, excuse me. So we're expecting increase in crowdsourcing partners. So we're expecting to see increase in investment. We're expecting to see an increase in sales revenue from the sales team, reduction in operational costs from finance and accounting. From a customer point of view, we're expecting to see number of client increase coming from the business development team. I can't see that because I got the Zoom covering it, but what does that say? Increase in customer satisfaction from the customer service team. Now I lost I can't toggle anymore. From an internal point of view, we're expecting to see increase in prototypes from the engineering team, from our nice printer. Reduction in defects from the blowing team and manufacturing, reduction in defects from the assembling team. This is all coming from the usage of that printer and the actual training that the actual hands-on people, manufacturing people, are getting from the experience. From a learning and growth point of view, we're expecting to see increase in employee satisfaction in engineering, increase in employee satisfaction in manufacturing, increase in employee satisfaction in quality control, as well as in marketing and sales. So that once again, this is thinking about, are we doing good? Are we in line? These are our lag KPIs. Let's talk about leads for a second. So from a finance point of view, we're expecting to see, we're tracking spend on R&D. So that there, we're not saying increase is better, but in this case, we know the more spend you put on R&D, the more you're expecting to see improvements on your lag. More spending on L&D, learning and development, from the HR team, from the L&D team. So we're expecting to see the more we spend on that team to train, the better our lag KPIs are going to be. What about from a customer point of view? We're expecting to see the more client meetings we have, the more sales we're going to make. The more material, number of brochures we send to the market from the digital marketing team, the better our bottom line is going to get. The more client visits the sales teams makes, the better our bottom line is going to get. Let's think about from internal process point of view. The more prototypes we make, the better everything is going to get. The more offers we make to the market, the more sales we're going to make. The more audits that the audit team makes, the better quality that the toys are going to be. So these are all things that you can push. You can push your team to excel. These are all lead KPIs, things that you have control of. Number of marketing campaigns from the digital marketing campaign. And this I know firsthand. You guys know I spend a good portion of my day in sales and marketing. The more you get focused on that, the better chance you have of finding your dream set of clients. And from a learning and growth point of view, I'm not going to read them all because you're going to see R&D on marketing research. It comes from the top down. The CEO himself needs to know what his challenges are when he goes out to the market looking for crowdsourcing partners, looking for investments. So that's R&D right there at the top. Training at the engineering level, training at the manufacturing level, training at this manufacturing again. This one I double color coded R&D from the R&D team. So effectively, that's not as much a learning and growth KPI as it is an internal productivity KPI, because that's their job. So you could argue it either way. Training from the quality team, training on the customer service team, training on the art and graphic design team, R&D on the finance and accounting. So these are all things that you now have on your to-do list that you can say, you know what, if we really want to make the most of this printer, these are KPIs we need to start pushing in the market. We're pushing internally to actually see the best results we can get. So very important that you separate these two.
Andrew, thanks. I find this fascinating because I can see in my mind's eye the wheels of the bus and the balance scorecard, the fruits of the tree, and how all those initiatives, the wheels of the bus. I mean, this is one initiative. So you have to do this for each one of them. It's quite a daunting exercise. And how do you track all of this now?
And this is all just for 3D printing. If you think about how many wheels are on the bus.
Yeah.
So sometimes I laugh sometimes when you experts online say, okay, they say KPIs, you should only have 3 or 4 KPIs. I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe you're talking about the quarterly shot clock, the board of directors. You're right, maybe they should only be looking at 3 or 4 KPIs. But if you're managing a team with processes and 5 people, you have a lot of things to think about from a lead and lag perspective, mostly from a lead perspective, if you really want to push your team to be the best they can be. So summarizing and reporting, you can see just a cut from what you just saw. We got a long-term objectives that we expect our 3D printer to help us increase customer satisfaction to 85%. We expect it to increase employee engagement to 40%, increase market share by 25%, and decrease cost of production by 10%. And you can see here with the color codes, these are KPIs now that we're going to be assigning to our team leaders. You know, the same KPI might be assigned 3 or 4 times. Now, logging into our system here we are in Presto PDCA, our KPI management solution. I'm not going to go into everything right away, and I'm sorry I got kicked out. I'm going to have to log back in.
I think, Andrew, while you're logging in there, I want to point out what's happening here now is we're taking those strategies, the wheels of the bus, the fruits of the tree in terms of KPIs, and we're answering the question of how do we track that our strategy is actually being implemented. So what Presto is brilliant at is giving a dashboard view that shows alignment of the things that people are doing to the fruits of the tree and the progress that's being made. Are we achieving? Are we moving forward? So this is where that trackable and guaranteed implementation comes through.
Yep.
And Andrew, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay, try to give me 4, please. So anyway, so just to give everybody a quick overview, especially if you haven't seen Presto before. So here we have our company. This Samuel, you can see he's responsible for 27 teams, 63 people, and he's also responsible for 190 business processes. These are his different direct reports, as you saw on the slide. So we're looking at the KPI dashboard, and at the moment we're looking at all the KPIs for financial balance scorecard, customer, process, and learning and growth. And of course, if you drill into any one of these, show me all these internal process KPIs, you can see 13 are risk and safety, 5 are quality, 10 are productivity, 5 are delivery. And we like to keep our lead KPIs separate from our lag KPIs. And at this point in time, just to know what are all these numbers in there, well, nice overview of everything is right here. And when you click on this, you get a view of everything, and you can see these are the high level KPIs. And this is a beautiful report to bring to the steerco meeting and say, these are the things we're tracking. Financial KPIs, we're tracking shipment costs, fees for disposal, sales revenues. Customer KPIs, we're tracking sales revenues, response time, number of defects in quality, number of public incidents, risk and safety. So this here is a great way just to start at the top and say, hey, do we got everything? Because somebody might say, oh, we're missing a quality KPI that's financial related. And immediately people that are in that space are going to be able to add value by discussing. So looking at this now, if you take a look at all of this, you can see, I'm going to put on the objective view, and I'm going to show you the wheels of the bus in Presto, or should I say the initiatives that this company is taking forward. Number 5 is the one we've been talking about for the last 15 minutes, investing in 3D prototype realization. So if I look at my objective view and I open up the report on this, I see immediately, here's my strategic objective. These are the people that are responsible for it using the RACI Magic Logic. So you can see the engineer lead is accountable for this, and it's in the hands of the quality assurance lead. Here's our annual goals. Annual goal, decrease cost of production, increase employee engagement, promote digital transformation awareness. And here you have the actual KPIs assigned to the team leads. So you can see the last name of the person.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm going to interrupt you here because this is really deep diving, very, very deep into this. I'm just excited about the fact that it doesn't need to be all this cumbersome system that can track what is happening against a set target. Now, if you weren't a larger organization, how would you track all of these things? How would you use the software to assist you? Because we are going into a lot of detail, but in terms of the actual, let's say the 3D printer, what is the most important thing that I, as a oversight on, to see that we're actually doing what's needed for us to attain that objective, so that we can prototype all of our toys on a 3D printer?
Yeah, so great question. So basically, yeah, you're right. A lot of detail in here. You got a lot of stuff going on. So what you can get from a reporting point of view, and what I constantly use myself, is you can see immediately, if everybody goes back to their statistics days in university, if you remember forecasting, we use linear regression forecasting, and Presto's telling you have 4 KPIs that are trending downward. And what you can do immediately, just as a daily tactical decision maker, actually, what are those 4 KPIs? I'm going to open them up, and you see immediately, we have customer satisfaction score trending downwards for quality. We have disposal fees trending downwards, or should I say upward, probably going up and up. And what you can do, you can just go in there. Let's go take a look at those customer satisfaction score.
Andrew,
You see the customer satisfaction score is trending.
Andrew, I'm afraid we've run out of time. I'm so sorry to have to stop you. I do think people are fascinated, and there's so much more that you can show them. So I honestly want to urge people to take Andrew up on the offer of a demo where he can show you more. But I think you've answered the question. This is a fantastic system. You can see the dashboard, you can see all your KPIs, and you track it in one place across the organization. So absolutely brilliant. I want to say thank you for all my panelists today, and I'm going to hand back to Vincent.
Yeah, thanks. To take up Andrew's offer, we were going to, I'm just going to quickly run through this attendee offer, and then we're going to jump over to Q&A. So Andrew's offer that you can take up, there will be an email after this session, a thank you email for your attendance. And within that, there's a nice detailed explanation and description of the offer that we've got. So in terms of what you can get from Patank, we've got basically what we walked you through today for $2,000. It's 2 90-minute sessions, and we will make sure that at the end of that, you've got an executable strategy. And if you then like to have a software solution to put that strategy into so that you can track its achievement and completion, then Andrew's also got an excellent offer, up to 60% discounting on his price. And there's a DuPont's demo that he's been walking us through that you can have access to, $42 a month. So yeah, some amazing offers. We will send out the details in the thank you email.
Great, thanks. And please have a look at that. I think it's time for Q&A now. Michelle, have you tracked the questions? Are there any questions? If you want to unmute yourself,
Yes.
Ask a question, feel free.
I would just like to step back to a question that Annalisa asked. I think, you know, in terms of what is lag and what is lead KPIs, I don't even want to go that deep in at this level of building what we call the business destination map. The fact is, you're hoping to achieve or planning to achieve one big goal. And in order to achieve that big goal, there are business areas that have to perform, deliver something to make that goal happen. And we measure those business areas as KPIs. So the fruits of the tree is measured by KPIs. And those KPIs become reality through tasks that you do, which is really the wheels of the bus. So a KPI says this is a business measurement, and then you've got your OKR, which is your objective or the task, the wheel of the bus that needs lots of smaller actions, each with a result. And results then roll back. So and then once you've got that agreed and understood by people, then you can start using a system like Presto, in which you capture those tasks individually, you assign a person to that task, and that task then either gets completed or doesn't get completed, but you can track it then on software. Now you can also do that on a Excel spreadsheet, but the larger the organization, the more cumbersome it becomes. So if you're a smaller organization, yeah, Excel spreadsheet can track those things well. But if you've got many elements making that wheel of the bus turn, and Andrew was deep dived really into a single bus wheel. Imagine you've got a whole range of those, then you would.
Yeah. Can I summarize my view of it?
Yeah, I just want to caution, we can stand on this one topic for a long time, but quickly, Vincent, because we need to move on to another question.
Okay, a KPI is a measurement. What do you measure? You got to measure something. The wheel of the bus or OKRs is a project, a thing you do. And so the result that you measure, that's the KPI. It measures that your project has the desired outcome.
Thank you. Any more questions?
And everybody, there must be more questions. Doesn't look like it. Okay.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
Hi, yes, Cito here. Sorry, I didn't know if I should put my
Hi,
hand up
Cito.
or just start talking.
Just talk.
Perfect. One of the things that I also experience in my work as a consultant, that also the data part is very important. So you can have very good KPIs, but if you are measuring, as you said, Vincent, if your measurements are not right or your data can't be trusted. So is there anyone with experience or who says, listen, this is what we have done to tackle that challenge?
Look, I think it starts with the KPI needs to be capable of measurement. So how good I look might not be a good KPI, but the length of my nose, that's a good KPI. And so if you're not producing the data, then you shouldn't be making those as KPIs, but rather that should maybe be an objective, is to create data for measurable KPIs. So if your client's not in the state yet of producing data that is measurable for the purpose of KPIs, they should have a project to undertake where they will start to produce that data. That's how I would tackle the situation.
I would add one thing on that. This is a huge topic, is that when we're deploying KPIs with any company, whether it's a big or small company, you got to try to make everything as daily as possible. With daily discipline allows you to get the best accurate measurement. Myself, you're going to laugh, but obviously using automation, I have about 120 KPIs that I track every day that I just think of myself. And if I don't delegate them, but honestly, it takes me less than 2 minutes because I just go through the day. Were there any problems here, any problems here, any problems here? If there is, you stop and then you think about it. 20 minutes were spent, things like that. But if you don't do those type of things on a daily basis, it's almost impossible if 2 weeks down the road, 2 months down the road, to try to remember what you didn't capture. So what we're really promoting from an automation point of view is that anybody that's responsible for a process in the company, that they give you every day the information that you need. And it's not that hard to capture, even if you don't have some web hook or some API to capture it from a machine. You're reminding your process owners every day, hey, it's your responsibility to contact the clients, to make a sale, to do this. And if, on average, it might be, no, nothing happened today, but when it does, you flag it and you capture it. And that's what automation can help you do much more accurately.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent and Andrew. And that's also a thing in my field of change management, that exactly what you were saying, Andrew. If you have not the right way of working with the people who are, say, sticking to the process and filling in the forms or filling in the data, then you can't really properly steer or manage. And that's why the daily steering is very important.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Fascinating topic. We're slowly running out of time. I'm going to ask for one more question, and if there's no more questions, we just have a short poll for you right at the end. Any more questions? Annalisa, did you put your finger up? No. Okay. And if there's no more questions, then thank you so much for attending. And please give us your feedback and look out for the next event and join us on the next cruise.
Yep, I've launched the poll. So you can just quickly answer those questions. And then as MJ says, we have coming up on the 16th of February, our next event. And I'm trying to multitask and quickly share my screen while I'm talking and launching the poll. Okay, and I've shared the wrong slide. And that's what we've got coming up. On the 16th of February, we'll have a revision of this session. And then please feel free to book a demo with us. Moira has put in the Calendly link. I'm sure she'll put in the Calendly link again. There she's put in the event link if you want to register for the event. And yeah, sharing the results of the poll.
Oh, wow. Thank you for the kind
Very nice.
feedback.
4 points.
Thank you.
Yes, and of course with sorry, MJ, I just want to make a point that with the next event, even though the